go. And we're recording. Okay, so I'm joined here with Nadav. Nadav, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure.
I've never had the pleasure of meeting before, but yeah, you were kind enough to accept my invitation. I really wanted to have a chat with you because I like your content. I really like the content you've been doing, especially on TikTok and everything else. You're using the silent approach of instructing, and making it go across all languages, which I thought was a really good tool and very unique way of doing it, especially with TikTok. I never even thought about something like that. Now, Nadav, just so I don't butcher your dossier, how about you run us through a bit about yourself and
All right. So I've started Krav Maga when I was about 12 years old, and I started in my hometown, Kalmiel, studying under or training under Nachum Brasova, who at the time was it was still black belts. That we're talking about 1992. So he was a second degree black belt back then. And he's still, I think Nachum is still somewhat active in Krav Maga. He was for a certain time a member of the global team for a short period of time. And then I continued training basically until I joined the military at 18. By then I did already my GIC, and after the military I took a couple of years, let's say not an intentional break, but a break nonetheless. And at around 23, 24, I got back to training under Zev Cohen, and basically I've been training under him officially ever since. About 6 years ago, I moved to Germany, so I haven't been training under him as often as I'd like, but whenever I go back to Israel for a visit, I definitely make sure that I stop by there every second that I get. I'm currently expert level 3, running my own school in Mannheim in Germany. My main role in KMG under the global international team is doing the kids certifications, the kids instructor courses. Basically, that's that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And obviously, you started very young. There's not many instructors that I know of that went through doing Krav Maga as a kid. You're actually the first one I've spoken to who has. So what was that like? Like, did you actually look for that, or did your parents basically say, "Hey, you're going to do this"?
No, my parents had nothing to do with it. I was always a martial arts freak. I always loved, watching Bruce Lee, watching Chuck Norris, watching Van Damme and all that.
Yeah.
And the thing was, I didn't even know about Krav Maga up to about, I don't know, a week or two before I started. In 1992, that was also in the summer of 92, there was the Barcelona Olympics, and Israel won its first Olympic medal, and that was judo. And I started out by looking for judo, but where I grew up, there wasn't any judo. There was karate and there was Krav Maga. And I already tried karate and I didn't like it. And also at the time I had a friend who was training Krav Maga. He was a green belt at the time. And he was, come on, let's go, let's train, come train with us. So eventually I did. And after like the first or second training, I was, okay, this is for me. This is where I live now. And as you see us, stuck with it ever since.
That's amazing, because I teach kids classes myself, and I always sit there wondering what's going through their mind when they're walking through those doors.
I mean, back then, it didn't look like it looks now.
Yeah.
At least where I was training, it was more or less like adult training.
Right.
But just with, I mean, me and my friend, we were, I think, probably not the youngest, but some of the youngest in the group. And the rest of the guys were about, let's say, when if I started at 12, more or less, then they were about 14, 15.
Right.
And, you know, a little bit of warm up, train the technique, and then do sparring and get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
That was more or less the routine for a good number of years.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just how it was. There wasn't like it is today. We didn't have, you know, a set curriculum for kids or for teens. It was just the techniques that you have in the curriculum, which were also, you know, much more, let's call them basic than they are now, much more technical. There wasn't this whole holistic view of self-defense. There were the techniques, and you do the techniques, and if you've done the techniques correctly, you should be able to defend yourself. Yeah, so we just, you know, we did the techniques, and like I said, at the end of the class, a few rounds of sparring, and if you're lucky, then you, the bigger guy who was training with you would be kind of nice to you, and if you weren't so lucky, then not so much.
So a different way of doing things, and what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your parents' reaction to you doing Krav Maga? Because obviously, like at 12 years old, going through all that, and, you know,
they were fine with it. I mean, I was always happy coming out, so it wasn't an issue, and there weren't any real, you know, injuries or stuff like that. The guys were, you know, I'm saying kicking our asses, but still in a friendly way.
Yeah.
They were fine with it. They didn't really have any issues with it until it became a profession. And then they were like, maybe you should check something else out, because we're not sure if that's the right profession for a grown man.
Yeah, I think every Krav Maga instructor has gone through that in conversation with their parents.
Probably. I mean, I don't know what it's like over there, but in Israel, it's sport up until recently was not considered a profession at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if I look back on, you know, people from like my generation, is where it started to change a little bit, but like if I take 5 or 10 years older than me, it would have been very much frowned upon, or just, you know, people look at you like you're an uneducated goon if you do something like that for a living.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, with me, it was kind of like, you're an educated person and you went to university, why the hell are you doing this? And to it, you just need to be, you know, you need to respond. I like this, I'm good at this, I'm earning my keep, and I'm going to continue doing this. I mean, it does take a lot of stubbornness, let's call it, or being just dedicated to what you do.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And in regards to your Krav Maga journey, what are your Krav Maga aspirations moving forward?
So for me personally, I just want to continue doing what I do. I want to continue improving for myself personally and for my students. And, you know, in terms of, official ranks and so on, sure, I'd like to get to expert 5 someday. But first of all, being a father and a husband, you have a family to take care of, the camps and all those things, you don't always have the time for it.
Yeah.
But I do try, just to improve in everything that I can. So I talk to the Zev whenever I can, and try to clarify things. I talk to other instructors and get their points of view on certain issues. And I also train other things, which has helped me very much in understanding Krav Maga techniques. So I've been training Muay Thai for a number of years now, and I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a number of years now. And it has been helping me with understanding Krav Maga better.
Yeah.
Because then you understand, let's take, for example, like we had a seminar yesterday. I did a seminar for my students. Entire day basically, and so like first 2 hours were basic striking and footwork. After that, like 2 hours basic ground fighting, getting up from the ground, basic defenses on the ground, and so on. And then we went to like more classical Krav Maga with knife defenses and defending third party and so on. Yeah. But the thing is that, so going back to your question on what my aspirations are, I'm actually working for the past, like I said, few years on improving the absolute basics, my absolute basics, punching, kicking, moving, some basic groundwork, because I see and I feel that it improves me as an instructor, improves my students in their abilities to defend themselves. So those are my aspirations, just to do my job correctly and do my job well, and to educate my students so that they will actually be able to defend themselves.
Okay, right. That's a great answer. I think it's very important that every instructor should always be looking at improving and not just hang their flag on a pole and just say, well, that's me, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, it's the mentality of, that's it, that's what I have, I'm a finished product. That's not something that belongs in martial arts generally.
Yeah.
And certainly not in the field of self-defense, which is always evolving. So, I mean, if you do something like that, you're doing something wrong. And I'm happy to say that most people that I know in our field are not like that.
Yeah, I've come up with the same summation there. So, yeah, it's great to know that we're surrounded by people that are always trying to do that, and always seeking improvement. How would you? A question I like asking, and purely mainly because I'm a school owner myself, and I teach so many classes. But what is your style of teaching? How do you communicate with your students? How would you describe that?
Yeah. So I'll take you through the development of my style up to today, and if we talk again next year, it'll probably be a little bit different. Yeah. But I started as a very insecure instructor. And so for a while, for a few years, I was kind of hiding behind my position as instructor. In saying, I am the instructor, I decide, I am, kind of using the power of the position to say, this is how it is. With time, with your own progression, you become more comfortable with the position, and then you become more open to discussion, more open to questions, and more open to accepting that there's more than one way. Yeah. So if I talk about my style right now, so in terms of the technical parts, I try, I hold it as close as possible to the original technique as much as I can, but I'm also open to, saying, all right, if there's someone who is, like for example, someone who does, this and then a hammer punch works better for him than this and then a straight punch.
That's fine.
All right, that's fine with me as long as it holds true to the principles.
Yeah.
And or someone says this technique doesn't really work for me. Do you have another solution? Then you try to find a workaround.
Yeah.
In the hopes that maybe later the technique will suit, but at the moment this is what it is, and eventually at the end of class they need to come out and be able to defend themselves if something happens. So that's on that part. On the interpersonal level, I'm just trying to be, again, if I take it a few years before, hiding behind the instructor shield and not really connecting with the people. And right now I just for me, I come there for the social interaction, for the fun of just meeting the people and having fun with them. So we laugh a lot more, and I try to keep a light atmosphere when it's there, and when it's time, for example, to do a more serious stress drill or something like that, then I take it there. But I'm much more, let's call it, emotionally available.
Yeah, approachable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the best way to be. I think it's also good. I think it actually helps becoming a school owner in many respects, because there's a monetary penalty if you don't get it right.
Definitely. I mean, you have to be much more attuned to what the people need.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a professional instructor in the sense that you come, you teach, you go. Sure, you have the ability, or you have the option, to be attuned to the people, but you don't have to be. I mean, if you come to a certain gym or whatever, and you're there for 1 day or 1 week, and your paycheck doesn't depend on you smiling so much, then you have the option of staying in your cocoon. But if you are responsible for earning a living with this job, you have to be much more in tune to what the people are looking for, what the people need, and and just adjust yourself to it. And I also think that as a school owner, you also personally benefit from it, simply because you get also on the way you make new friends. So why not?
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. Now, do you train with your family at all?
With my family, not so well. My son trains under me. He's 8 years old right now. But other than that, my daughter's too small, and my wife is really not into that.
Yeah, my
He's
wife,
not the athletic type.
Yeah. I've got the same issue. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any other hobbies outside of Krav Maga?
Yeah, like I said, martial arts in general have always been my thing. That's what I mean. 95% of the things that I do that are not Krav Maga per se are martial arts. Play a little music, watch a movie now and then, but yeah, I'm very deep into the world of martial arts.
Okay, all right. Someone's going to ask me, why didn't you ask it? So I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
You mentioned movies. Favorite type of movie?
I was just discussing it with one of my guys yesterday. Type of movie, I don't know. I can tell you that until I was about 20, Princess Bride was my favorite movie. And I would still watch it today. It holds up. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
But after that, nothing. I mean, I'm a sci-fi geek a
Yeah.
little bit, but that's more into, Star Trek and that.
Yeah.
So more into the series, but not so much the movies.
Okay. So Star Trek
Other than
rather than
that,
Star Wars.
oh, I hate Star Wars. I think it's one of the worst movie series ever made.
Okay. Well, that says a lot. We can
Yeah,
we can box you in.
I've definitely, yeah. Half the world hates me now.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Now, next question. Is Krav Maga therapeutic for you?
In many ways, yes. I mean, um, I'll take you through my history. So when I was growing up, not so much self-confident.
Mm.
And there were times when actually it was going in the opposite direction. I mean, I remember distinctly having a period when I would have nightmares of being attacked using Krav Maga, and the punches are just not affecting.
Mm.
So it's like an absolute. It's a feeling like everything is flaccid, like you're punching and you're hitting, but it has
Definitely.
no effect.
Yeah, I've had similar thoughts.
And these things went away when I started training more seriously. So after starting training with Zev, where you get put under the type of training that I had before as a child and teenager were, like I said, very technical. And now and again we'd have some sparring sessions, but back then there was no concept of how to progress someone through sparring, how to get you to fight better. So you would just fight, and the result would be usually the same. Either you were good or you were not good. And when I started training with Zev, he had more of a plan. So during that time, these things went away. These kind of nightmares went away. And after starting training with, Muay Thai and BJJ and going into a little bit more harder sparring, and again, people who are more experienced with that kind of thing, it really went away. So now I'm feeling, I don't have these feelings of lack of confidence anymore. So it's a process that took a while. It needs the correct type of training. It needs the correct type of stimulation and challenge. But I definitely think it can be.
Okay. And has your love of Krav Maga helped you persevere through a difficult situation?
Definitely. So when I was 27 or 8, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. For those who don't know, Crohn's disease is is an autoimmune disease where basically your brain considers your parts of your intestines, usually the part where the small intestines meet the colon, it considers them a threat. And it creates inflammation and basically makes you sick. So one of the effects of that is that your intestines start shrinking because the inflammation creates scar tissue, and the scar tissue just begins to constrict. So there was a point where it got to a point with me that I actually couldn't digest anything solid. Any solid food would create a bowel obstruction. And I was supposed to get an operation to get that part of the intestine removed. And I had to wait something like 3 months for the operation because it wasn't an emergency operation, but it still needed to be done. So during those 3 months, it was probably the most miserable time in my life. I mean, I couldn't eat anything solid. The only thing I could consume were kind of like shakes. It's the type of shakes that you give to cancer patients when they can't, because of chemo, they can't eat anything.
Yeah.
And it was a big issue to get those shakes because thankfully, I'm not a cancer patient. So you need to get like a special authorization from the, from the medical insurance to go there and it was a whole nightmare. And those are like I said, about 3 months of that story.
Yeah.
And other than that, I could live my life normally. So I would go teach and I could go train. So back then, I could only train because of being away from the gym and so on. I lived in another city, so I could only go Fridays. But Friday? No, I think it was twice a week. Anyway. So I would just stock up on those shakes. I mean, they said like, okay, you need like something like 2,000 calories a day. I said, all right. I had 3,000 calories a day and just went to burn it off in training. So that was definitely a time where training kept me sane. It was, you can come in, you can unload all your frustrations on the bag or by training with your partner.
Yeah.
And so if you were asking before if it's therapeutic, for that, it was definitely therapeutic.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. That's exactly a great example of it helping out. Now, going on to a little bit more, I guess, lighthearted, which is what has been the most difficult project or class that you've had to teach or workshop or anything like that?
Teach.
Yeah.
Basically, I think so. The most challenging work for me usually is going to do demo lessons for children and especially for teens. That's like the most draining work that you can do, because you come I'll give you an example of, I haven't had a chance to do it so much here in Germany, but in Israel we used to do it a few times a year, especially in the beginning of the school year.
Yeah.
Where you need to do some marketing. So you go in, you give a demo lesson at some school. Now it really depends on which school and which age, but usually what happens is you come in and it's let's say 7th grade or 8th grade, and they're usually separated to boys and girls. And again, this is 13, 14, 15 years old. It's not a very patient age, and it's not an age where they think they need to learn something new.
Yeah.
And they, all the boys are macho and dripping with hormones, and any concept of let me teach you something, or let me show you where you could improve your safety is like, safety? Who the fuck needs safety? So you go into a class like that, and usually you don't do it just the one 45-minute class. You go for the whole day, because it's, you just attach yourself to a teacher and you go through his day too. So he's got like 4 or 6 classes.
Yeah.
So you come in and you've got the 20 kids, 13, 14, 15 years old, all looking at you with disdain, and you have to teach them something. And you have to prove to them, or to convince them, that they need your knowledge. Um, it's a challenging task. You need to be both positive on one hand, tough on the other hand, quick with your answers, because if you're like if they throw an insult at you and you don't respond correctly,
Lose.
then you lose. Yeah, it's like being in prison basically. It's like, you know, being first day in prison.
Yeah.
So those are to me those are the most challenging most challenging kind of class that you can do.
Yeah, we've actually got a contract with a few local high schools around the area, and every Wednesday we teach there. Every Wednesday, and you know, exactly how you described. There's roughly about, it's split between boys and girls, and in one of them there's 70 students.
70.
70.
Oh wow.
So you know, obviously we bring some assistant instructors to help out with that one. A bit difficult otherwise, but what I find difficult is the demo at the beginning, where you're trying to get people to enlist in the program. So basically it's like an open day where they all have to go to assembly and they watch a demonstration. There's a talk about rugby league, which is a sport we play here. There's a talk about swimming. There's a talk about this, and then the talk about Krav Maga. So basically what I do is I get someone to come out in a suit with a baseball bat, and they hit me as hard as they can. And I do the demo, and I go full impact on the person. And everyone sits there going, wow, look at that. You know, I basically got them at that point. But a very stressful time because, you know, like it's a real baseball bat that I get the person to attack me with. And, you know, like
you're bringing in a student from the school?
Yeah. I get a student from my school, someone that I trust, someone who knows how to attack. I won't get anyone from the audience. That's too risky. But someone from the school, and that it makes it very interesting because, you know, that thought in the back of your mind is always there. Okay, this is a real baseball bat coming at me, and I
better do this right because there's money riding here.
So it's always fun. But I agree that that's a tough gig, that one. I've done that gig a few times. I now palm that gig off to my other instructors. I don't do that anymore.
I mean, I always find that, I mean, the thing, like I'm a certified English teacher as well, but I've never worked at it because I always find, I mean, I ask myself, why bother working with or trying to teach people who don't want to learn? I mean, for us as school owners, as instructors, it's easy. You know, there's only people here who really want to learn. Otherwise, why would they pay us money to do it? So that's an easy life. But when you work in a school, in a system where, you know, hundreds and hundreds of kids have to be there against their will, it's not an easy job.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. And moving us on to the next question. How important is the KMG community to you?
I mean, that's my community. It's these are the people. I mean, granted, the KMG community is pretty big. There's so many people that I don't know, but the ones I do, I mean, some of them are, you know, real friends and people who are really like partners. Some, well, at this point, more long range, but you know, the people I grew up with in Zev's gym, Pavel, Albert, Tal, all these people who are right now really high-ranking experts. I mean, these are people that I grew up with since I was, let's call it a baby in Krav Maga terms. And also, you know, we have the people who are also just true inspiration on how you do this. I mean, I mean, one of the people that I find very, very interesting is John Bullock, the director from the UK. That's a guy that, I mean, first of all, I would suggest reading his book if you didn't. Just an interesting guy who also just gets the point of Krav Maga, knows how to run his business, and it's just really interesting to watch, really interesting to see how he works. So, I find there are people there's always someone to learn from in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And what is the most memorable interaction you've had with someone regarding your Krav Maga journey?
Say that again, sorry.
So what is your most memorable interaction that you've had in your Krav Maga journey?
It's hard to pinpoint one. I can't really, I mean, I can give you a few examples of things that are just like, when I think of my Krav Maga journey, that kind of come to mind. I mean, I remember a few things. I remember during my GIC, or back then it wasn't even called GIC, it was just like instructor course. Just going, back then it was in Gabi Noach's gym in Netanya. And that was a place that I was always terrified of, because that was like where the big guys are, where the tough guys are, and it's gonna be painful. It doesn't matter what you do, it's gonna hurt. And I remember, sitting there during the instructor course, and getting lectures from, back then I think it was Avi Moyal, who was talking about anatomy, and getting lectures from Eyal, and seeing Eyal back then. We're talking about 1998. He was sparring his nephew, who was doing the course as well, or something, a relative of his, and they were just like going at it and sparring. So that was something that stuck with me for a long time. I remember, going after doing the military, and after going back to train with Ze'ev, like the first time I taught there, and the feedback that they gave me, coming, doing my first kids instructor course, the first one I was teaching, was in Budapest in 2009 or 2010, with it's probably till today one of the best courses I ever gave. It was so much fun, and the guys were just amazing, laughing the whole 5 days, all the way through coming to Germany and opening my gym. And my first, it was November 2014 that I opened up my gym. I did my first seminar, and people from KMG clubs from all around came in and participating and coming into support. So there are a lot of memories. I can't really tell you what the most memorable one is.
Yeah. No, thank you. You've had a really an enviable journey, because you've had to train. You've had the opportunity to train under Zev, and some of the really big names. In Krav Maga. Like, what was that like? What was that like? Now here you are as a school owner and as a head of a school. And coming from that type of background, must feel pretty good.
What was it like training under those guys?
Yeah,
it was great. I mean, you know, a lot of times you understand things in perspective. Time goes by and you kind of like, you know, you experience other things and you say, you know, back then it really sharpened my Krav Maga skills and my understanding. And it's like, because I see other Krav Maga instructors, and I see other Krav Maga students who are now instructors on how they work and how they think about Krav Maga. And I think that it was definitely a privilege to grow up under these people at the time, because first of all, you know, direct lineage to IMI, and those are people who, like we said before, despite what the culture was saying about them, people who dedicated their life to being professionals at this field. And so it, you know, it gives you, first of all, these are people who are true professionals. I mean, look at Zev and Eyal right now. I can't think of anyone who can offer more knowledge on our field. And studying under them is, you know, it still is a privilege.
Yeah. Well, you know, most instructors, the only chance they get to really sharpen their skills is during an update or a camp.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things, and you know, being able to train 24/7, you know, in a gym like that, like Zeb's is.
It's pretty amazing. And if you look right now at, like I said, well, I don't know if you know the constellation, but right now what's happening in Israel is, you know, Zev has his gym, and Pavel, who we were talking about before, they're working kind of very close together. And if you look at their students right now, their level, first of all, of fighting, and their understanding of these situations, and the added skills we were talking about before that were missing in the past, like, you know, just communication skills and just understanding situations. It's a different playing field. These people are, let's put it this way, I would not want to attack them in any case. So yeah, I mean, you look at those, and you understand, first of all, the development that happened in the field, and you understand also that, you know, there's a very, very high level, and like you say, most instructors around the world, they only get, you know, if they're lucky, then they have once a week some kind of instructor training if they're working under someone who's a higher level, or if not, if they're school owners, then they will probably once or twice a year train for a couple of days, and that's it. And that's a real shame. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get back to traveling again and offering real training and with real people soon, and hopefully it'll improve.
Yeah. Well, one thing with COVID is that I like about it is it's opened these avenues for online learning where I'm getting access to instructors that I normally wouldn't have had access to. For my own personal journey. So I'm enjoying that. I hope that continues, so that way I can still sit there improving myself after. I'm sure there's other instructors that hope for the same thing, because I'm seeing the same instructors in those rooms whenever there's those classes. But it's definitely something that I actually see a positive from this whole COVID thing, that it's forced a lot of us to adapt.
Definitely. And I to a certain degree, it's obviously very beneficial to have people, you know, Eyal was doing online training, and Zev is offering online training, and I think Tommy was doing online training, and a bunch of people who were doing that. We need to remember also that, you know, there's a certain limitation to online training. I mean, you can dry drill the technique and you can explain, but the actual physical contact and where to Yeah, definitely. So it's great. And I think I mean, the way I would progress with things like that under normal circumstances is to continue with the online training, to go more into methods of communication, the things that are not necessarily physical, methods of communication, and just explaining scenarios and analyzing scenarios. You know, the technique itself, the actual Maga of Krav Maga, needs to be with actual contact.
Yes. Yeah. Now, last question. What do you hope that people take away from Krav Maga?
I've been doing a lot of thinking about that lately, actually. Kind of soul searching with myself what the point is. And I see a number of important things. Obviously, first one is the ability to defend yourself. I think that's actually self-defense training in the most literal sense. But we were talking about, my journey and a little bit about my psychology throughout my life in Krav Maga. And I think that's the biggest point, because first of all, you can also see in all the interviews that they do with criminals and all the the research and all that the people who are attacked usually are the easy targets. And if you're a confident person and you're hanging around or walking around with your friends and you're focused, then your chances of being attacked go down anyway. So I think that I see Krav Maga in both the linear sense of the self-defense technique, but also in the indirect way of creating someone or taking a person who may have an issue and helping him indirectly work on that issue as well. If this person is feeling weak or insecure or socially isolated or whatever it may be, and you take him and you put him in this group scenario where everyone's smiling and everyone's happy and you train together and you feel stronger and you feel you're part of a community, and all those things bring you into a position where you're basically just better off as an individual. So I think that definitely should also be a goal. And for me personally, again, I was doing some soul searching on this recently, and that was, the goal the conclusion that I came to is that I want to use the physical element to help the people feel better about themselves and just, be content and be happy with their lives. Not a psychologist, not a therapist, but I do see the benefits of, doing your work correctly. And again, like I said, when I started training more correctly and with more, let's call it with more resistance, when you do that, you start realizing that you can do more. Sure, there are limitations to what you can do, but you can also achieve much more than you ever dreamed. So I think that working like that, working correctly with the people, will get them to a better place in terms of self-defense, but also physically with their own body and emotionally as well.
Okay, that's a great answer. I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's I personally like the journey where you have a student who comes in and there's definitely some anxiety and things like that, and you look at them 3 years later or 2 years later, and there's a very very proud moment when you look at them and you go, okay, this is someone completely different. This is they're no longer a shadow. They're out in the sun. Nadav, thank you so much. You've
My
been
pleasure.
an absolute gentleman. Is there anything you'd like to say before we finish? Give your school a plug. I'll put the links in. I'll do all that.
So yeah, so So first of all, you can, if you speak German, you can go to my website. It's www.impact-gruppe gruppe.de. So that's the German website. But you can follow me on Instagram. I have no idea what my handle is on Instagram. On TikTok, I'm Nadav Shoshan 6. Shoshan with an O. Yeah, just look me at Nadav Shoshan on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, and TikTok if it's still around, as long as Donald
In
Trump.
TikTok, I think they settled it.
As long as Donald Trump doesn't get rid of TikTok, we'll be okay.
No, it was just some ploy with someone was buying it in the US, some company. I think.
I think they're saying Microsoft
someone was
at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft bought it or something like that. So it's just like a trick. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I highly recommend Nadav's TikTok. It's definitely worth following. You'll get a lot of key checkpoints and things like that. So anyone in the Krav Maga circle that wants to improve their Krav Maga, they should really check that out because there's a great emphasis on the checkpoints in those videos.
Thank you.
Nadav, thank you so much. You've been an absolute gentleman. All right, guys, I'll see you later.